This content is brought to you by Algorand, which is building the future of finance. Algorand is one of the leading projects in the crypto industry. It is getting significant adoption and investments. This content is also brought to you by TaxBit, which is the leading tax service provider in the crypto industry. I'm personally a TaxBit user. It makes it so easy to plug in my exchange accounts and calculate my crypto gains and losses. So if you'd like to learn more about Algorand and TaxBit, please visit the links in the description of the podcast and YouTube video. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Thinking Crypto channel, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. With me today is Whit Gibbs, who's the co-founder and CEO of Compass Mining. Whit, great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me on the show. Excited to be here with you today.
Whit, I want to learn everything there is to know about Compass Mining because I'm excited about Bitcoin mining in the United States and the big changes we've been seeing recently. Now, before we get there, let's start with your background, where you're from, and where'd you grow up?
You know, I grew up in a small town in Southern Ohio and ended up moving to Miami when I was in high school to play football, and then settled down there, did college in Florida, and have kind of been a Florida boy ever since. Not an island boy, but a Florida boy.
Now, Whit, I follow you on Twitter. On your Twitter profile, you have a tweet that is pinned, and I found it so inspirational. I'll read it out here for those who haven't seen it. Bought the top in 2017, started 2 failed podcasts, moved in with your parents so you can save money to build a business. And then you have failed. Then you launch Compass in 2020. And in July 2021, you said the last month, Compass Mining passed $100 million in sales. Never give up, never. I love that. Tell us about your journey in more details as to what's outlined here.
Yeah, it was, look, life is a blessing, right? And I think that honestly, you can look at it negatively or with optimism. It's a choice that we make every day when we get up. And, I think that you're going to be responsible for motivating yourself on a day in and day out basis. No one's going to do it for you. And I've just always been a very determined person when it comes to what I want to accomplish out of life. And in my early 30s, I set out with I had an event in my life that really caused me to change and look at how I was looking at things. And I really set out with this desire to serve more people. Like, how can I help more people, whatever that may be? So I spent, a period of time in my life with my wife mentoring people directly and indirectly. We were mentoring about 1,500 people, traveling around the country, speaking at events, telling our story, helping people get encouraged and inspired to build businesses. And then, after that, I had a little bit of a hiatus, went to work at a company called puppyspot.com, which is the largest online marketplace for puppies in the world. And I was a part of their sales and marketing teams and helped with branding and customer awareness. And then after that, I found Bitcoin. And coming out of Puppy Spot, I'd had this, great job experience. And I was looking to, move into something that was my own. Like, how can I now start to develop wealth for my family and put them on a better path for the future? I've got a couple of kids, I'm married, and, my wife and I had a conversation when we first heard about Bitcoin. And I'm like, look, this is it. I don't know how we're going to make our way in this wacky world, but Bitcoin is going to play a part in it. So we took all of our life savings. We bought the top in 2017, took out a $40,000 loan, put that in as well. And we did the Bitcoin and altcoins thing for the first quarter or so, lost our shirts, right? Lost almost everything, went down to the last, $4,000, $5,000. And then fortunately learned how to trade. I learned how to trade, learned how to, pick projects that had solid fundamentals, and was able to do very well in 2018 and 2019. But, it was in the early summer of 2018, May, June, when I found mining, through Ravencoin. I liked Ravencoin as a project. I was like, look, I want to accumulate this in ways other than purchasing. So I built a computer to mine Ravencoin. It was complicated, like very, very tough. So I started a podcast. I'm like, look, if I start a podcast, people are going to want to come on and they're going to want to promote their products and services. And selfishly, I can then ask them the questions that I want to know about them so I can glean that information off of them and I can improve myself. And that's what I did. I ran a mining podcast for the better part of 2 years, the Hash Rate podcast. That's the fun story, right? The not so fun story is that before Hash Rate took off and it was somewhat successful, I had a podcast with the Bitcoin Bravado crew. I had a podcast that was called the Crypto Commission podcast. And they just never had traction. They never went anywhere. They were, what I would call a failed endeavor on those fronts. Hash Rate podcast started going really well. And on the back of that, my friends and I were developing a Bitcoin mining software company, or I'm sorry, a GP mining software company. And that was a massive failure. It ended up being, something that was a good product for the market, but people didn't want to pay for it. So, if you can't sell your product, you don't have a business. And that was a pretty big failure there. That's when I moved back in with my parents, moved my wife and my kids in with her parents. So if you can imagine sending my wife and kids to Latvia, where my wife is from, they moved in with their parents. I moved back in with my parents in Ohio, just as Thomas Heller, Paul Gosker, and I are putting everything that we have into Compass mining. We started building Compass. We were just hustling, trying to get it done with very little resources. And when we launched the platform in October of 2020, we thought we might have something. It was one of those situations where I'd had enough failures in business before to know when you don't have something, it's pretty easy to spot. When you do have something, you get this, it's a different feeling that you get when you know that other people may actually appreciate what you've just put out. And that was the feeling that we all had with Compass in October of 2020. And then from there, it's just been gangbusters. I mean, we've had an amazing reception from the community. The community has been behind us big time. We've served, almost 10,000 miners now, helping people to get online. We've sold almost 40,000 ASICs. And we've got about 43 megawatts of hosted capacity globally. In 2022, we're going to 10x that. 2022, we'll put another 400 megawatts online. And, it's looking like we're going to sell somewhere between, 200,000 and 300,000 ASICs potentially. So there's a lot to do and we're very excited about it. But the journey has been long, treacherous, and full of hurdles, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I think it's led to a deeper appreciation of what Compass is and what Compass has become.
Wow, what an amazing story and inspirational the way you persevered. And I can't imagine, I have a family, I have a wife, I have a kid, and then going through what you did and having to move back with parents, and your wife is in a different area than you were, and you're all in. But congratulations, man, on the success. That's such an inspiring story. Before we get into Compass and the details
Sure.
of services, what do you hold in your crypto portfolio?
So Bitcoin right now, and that's it at the moment. There are a lot of other projects. I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist. I'm a believer in Bitcoin, Bitcoin first principles. I believe that Bitcoin is the king of them all. But I've been always very forthcoming about the fact that I will do anything legally to accumulate more Bitcoin, and that includes trading altcoins, NFTs, whatever the case may be. There are a lot of projects that I like and I think will be good, especially the GameFi plays over the course of 2022. But right now, I'm basically Bitcoin and stables. I'm not looking to get into anything else until the market, makes a determination on which way it's headed.
For sure. I'm the same way. I have Bitcoin and I have altcoins, but Bitcoin is the less riskiest of all the cryptos, and I use that as a hedge against altcoins. It's certainly the one that I'm not gonna really do much with, but the altcoins I'll play around with and trade and so forth. All right, let's talk about Compass Mining. Tell us about all the services that you provide and what your mission is.
Great questions. Our mission is to democratize hash rate by giving everyone the ability to mine Bitcoin. Very simply put, we want everyone to mine Bitcoin. Now, in order to get everyone to mine Bitcoin, we need to take the price of an ASIC from $10,000 down to $2,000. So everything that we are doing with regards to products and services at Compass is to allow for an easy on and off ramp into Bitcoin mining, and then also provide financial services and other products to secure your ability to mine Bitcoin. So our core competency is just that: selling ASICs and selling hosting space at one of our 23 facilities around the world. But also we have payment plans. So if you want to get into mining, but you don't have 10,000 bucks, you can put down 25% on the purchase of, ASICs, and you will be up and hashing immediately, but you'll then have 3 to 12 months to pay off the remaining balance of your ASICs. And it ends up working out very well, especially when you consider that the prices of these ASICs, when Bitcoin pumps, the prices of the ASICs increase as well. So you can effectively finance a machine. It's like actually buying a house in an up and coming market, right? You buy a house at $100,000, but as the market value of it increases, you retain that extra value. It's very similar to that with ASICs as well. So that's a lot of what we look at. We also have an insurance product that we're launching. And those are really the focuses for us. We major in the majors. We try to stay laser focused and deliver on what we've committed to for our customers. All of the fancy bells and whistles and other products, they may come in the future, but right now we're just focused on our core business model and helping more people mine.
So your service is available to both retail and institutional investors, depending on the capacity that they want to get up and running with for Bitcoin mining?
Absolutely. When we got into this, it was very, very difficult to buy one ASIC and hook it up at a facility somewhere and get a fair power price. And that's why I think the market responded very well to Compass, because with us, our minimum order quantity is one. If you want to buy one ASIC and hook it up at a facility and pay less than 7 cents for power, which is unheard of, you can do that through Compass. We give you the ability to do that. But if you want to buy 1,000 machines and hook them up somewhere, we do that as well. We serve a lot of small, medium, and large businesses, as well as retail clients who are just getting their feet wet with mining.
It's interesting. We're talking about retail. I've been seeing reports from different media outlets of the one lone ASIC or mining rig that is getting the block reward, which is so fascinating and interesting.
It is so cool. Yeah. I mean, there was another one yesterday or today. And it's so cool to see this. Now, in truth, they're joining a mining pool like every other ASIC does.
Sure.
But this is a pool that pays out to the individual miner. So you still have that collective hash rate, but instead of it being like a full pay per share or a pay per share plus payment scheme, it literally pays out whoever contributes the hash that wins that block within the pool. So which is really neat. It's a novel idea.
For sure. So walk us through if, let's say someone listening to this podcast or watching the YouTube video, they want to go get an ASIC from you guys. What would be the process to get that going? And I know you mentioned a payment plan. Can you walk us through that?
Absolutely. So the easiest way is you go to compassmining.io. On there, we have a hardware page. You go to the hardware page, you select which ASIC you would like to buy. And when you're selecting, you're going to be looking at the price for the machine and when that machine goes online. Those are going to be the two metrics that are most important for you as a purchaser. Once you make your selection, you add that machine to your cart, we attach it to a facility, and then you check out just like you would on any other website, right? You can pay with cash. You can pay with a wire, you can pay with crypto, and very soon we're re-implementing credit cards you'll be able to pay with. And then that's it. Once the machine goes online, you give us your wallet address and your pool information, which we help you set up if you need help. And then you're off to the races. As you're mining, all of the Bitcoin goes to your wallet. We never touch it. We just bill you every month for power and you pay your power bill.
Wow. Tell us about the locations that you have globally. Do you have multiple locations in the United States? And maybe I know there's like 20 something, but at least major call outs as far as countries.
Yeah. So Kazakhstan, very small. That's going away in the near future. We had a big presence in China that obviously is no more. North America, we've got Canada and the United States. We have Iceland. We are looking at Norway right now, but we don't have anything there yet. We're looking at Paraguay right now. We don't have anything there yet. And then we have a big presence in Russia, Siberia specifically, because they produce so much power. There's so much hydro production in Siberia, but because it's so far east of the population centers in Russia, they're not able to transport that energy back. So if somebody doesn't consume it in Siberia, it's wasted. So it makes for Bitcoin miners make for a natural partner there. And we continue to expand in that area. We like it a lot.
So is that why President Vladimir Putin came out and said Russia has an advantage when it comes to Bitcoin mining, and now all of a sudden he's pushing the finance ministry and the central bank, get it right, regulated. What do you think about his statements and what's happening right now?
It's very astute. His statements are very, very smart. Siberia has a perfect climate for Bitcoin mining, right? It's got plentiful hydropower, which speaks to the green narrative that most people are, beating Bitcoin up for, or Bitcoin mining up for. And like I said, they have to use that energy on site in Siberia. Otherwise, it's lost. So he's effectively, by doing this, he's created a catalyst for a new industry to really take root and spring up in Siberia that could be worth ultimately hundreds of billions of dollars. If you were able to effectively scale and build Bitcoin mining facilities to consume even 30 to 40% of the energy produced in the Siberian region, that's a ton of capital that would be generated through those sites. I mean, a ton of Bitcoin and a lot of dollars.
For sure. And like you said, putting that wasted energy or excess energy to work. And I know there was reports of some energy companies here in the United States, I think one in New York, where they became profitable from mining, which one would not have thought about before, but they were able to stay in business because of mining Bitcoin. It's so amazing what's happening.
It's nuts, man. It really is. And it's great to see that people are actually on the front foot with this. New York has in the past been hard on the cryptocurrency industry, right? With their different there are different licenses that are required than everywhere else. But it's good to see this happening. Bitcoin miners are actually a net positive for any grid, and really for anyone who's going to beat the ESG drum. They should be begging for more Bitcoin miners to be on their grid, because we're going to help to improve not only the grid stability, but also the overall metrics of what kind of power is being consumed by major industries in an area.
Tell us about what type of institutions, I don't know if you can give some names, but that are buying equipment from you. Once again, there's probably NDAs and contracts you probably can't say, but I got to ask.
Yeah, it's a great question. And, I think a lot of people would be not surprised at some of the people that are mining. I mean, Celsius has been very big about saying that they're mining Bitcoin. And a lot of companies like Celsius are also mining Bitcoin. Because effectively, if you're a lending platform, you've got a net short position on Bitcoin. But if you are mining Bitcoin, then you're as long as you can possibly be. So just like you view Bitcoin as a hedge to your altcoins, I think a lot of these companies view Bitcoin mining as a hedge against their core business offering of lending out against Bitcoin.
Very interesting. Now, as far as the United States where's your main office in the United States? And the reason why I'm asking, because there's a lot of mining happening in Texas. I'm curious if you're down in Texas as well.
We've got an office in Austin, Texas. We've got an office in Miami, Florida, and then we're a Delaware-based company. So, yeah, but our team is distributed. We have 85 employees in, I don't know, probably 9 countries. So we're spread all over the world.
What are your thoughts on what is happening in Texas after the China ban of Bitcoin mining? The miners went to Kazakhstan and different parts of the world, but I heard many came to Texas and knocking on the doors. I spoke to the guys at Whinstone, Riot Blockchain, and Marathon Digital Holdings as well. What do you think about the boom of mining happening in the United States?
It is something to be seen. These guys are fired up, and gals. The Bitcoin community in Austin is thriving. I dare say it is the Bitcoin capital of the United States, if not the world right now. You talk about the Riot guys and the Whinstone guys, and whether it's Jason or it's Chad, they've just got such great energy. They're so positive. They're doing so many things to drive forward adoption and education around Bitcoin. And that's really what you get at all levels in Texas. You know, we're a part of the Texas Blockchain Council in Austin there, and always they're pushing for positive legislation. They're reviewing everything that they can. They're speaking to politicians and educating politicians. We had a meetup there a few days ago. There's almost 300 people that were there just to get educated on Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining, and it's exciting. Like the excitement is definitely palpable in those areas. And it's not only Austin, right? Houston has a massive Bit Devs meetup every month. And, you know, there was almost as many people, if not more, at that meetup than there were, than there were at the event in Austin. So Texas is thriving right now.
That's so exciting. And I think we're seeing the fruits of that labor, of the education and the advocacy. We're just seeing game theory playing out with political candidates. It seems like every state, someone is introducing some bill to make Bitcoin a legal tender. Just recently, Arizona, we saw guys like Alan West out of Texas as well. What do you think about this? And do you expect it to continue where more states are going to start to compete now for mining as well as making Bitcoin some sort of legal tender?
So making it legal tender, I think, is going to be a challenge. You know, that's when you're going to cross out of states' rights and into the federal government. And I don't think we're going to see it as legal tender in the United States. Giving the United States them relinquishing the ability to control the monetary supply, I think that's a pipe dream. However, I do think that more and more politicians will become Bitcoiners, and they will speak to these single issue voters that are Bitcoiners to, get them behind their cause. I liken this a lot to the marijuana movement in the early 2000s. It was a grassroots movement. It took root first and foremost with like 15 to 22 year olds. And then as those 15 to 22 year olds started to age up and move into positions where they could hold office, it became the norm, right? And what's happening now is we're about 12 years in. 12 years ago, a lot of the people who were involved, and there were some older people as well, but it was a lot of people who maybe weren't doing the right things. They were on certain websites they shouldn't be on, but that's how they got into Bitcoin and got into crypto. And now as they age up, they are, they're in a better financial spot. They're helping these politicians by providing, dollars towards their campaign. And in turn, these politicians are seeing that they can raise money from these folks as long as they're willing to support those initiatives. So whether the politicians are doing it because they actually believe, or whether they're doing it because they know it's a way they can get some easy backers, it's neither here nor there. I think that once we get them in office, they're going to continue to be supportive of what Bitcoiners are pushing for.
For sure. Now, you guys provide the infrastructure, the equipment, the ability to get mining up and running, whether you're a retailer or an institution. Are there plans for you to actually start mining yourselves, where you have some sort of mining setup where you're mining Bitcoin globally and things like that?
So the short answer is no, we're not planning on doing that. We've thought about it. We've kicked it around. It is certainly tempting, but it is highly unlikely that we will do that. And the reason is, it's not unlikely. We won't do that. We won't self-mine because it's going to put us in direct competition with our customers, and we wouldn't want to do that. We want to make sure that if there's one space available on the rack, that the customer doesn't have to wonder, is it going to go to a Compass machine or is it going to go to us? Because Compass works with hosting companies that also self-mine. And I'll tell you, it's the number one thing that we think about. If we're ever delayed, the first thought that creeps into our mind is, of course, we're delayed. They're using the rack space for their own self-mining. And it just creates this conflict of interest that's insurmountable. Even if you're able to manage it from a business perspective, from an optics standpoint, it's a very tough thing. So,
what's on your roadmap for 2022?
Honestly, right now, what's on our roadmap is to get our payment plans really off the ground and our insurance product off the ground, and then just to get everyone online. Our goal is to get back to where people who are purchasing through Compass are online within 72 hours of their purchase. That's how we started. Because of the Chinese situation, there was unprecedented demand coupled with unprecedented rack space shortages. So we've had to move away from that, but we will be moving back towards that 72-hour guarantee here in the near future.
Let's talk about the crypto market at large and how things have been trending. Obviously, we had a correction. Bitcoin currently hovering between the 30 to 35,000 range. Actually, today it's like around 38. Do you feel we're still in a bull market? Could Bitcoin have a retracement upwards? Any thoughts on how the market's moving?
I haven't looked at the total market. I mean, Bitcoin, I think we're going to see it trend up again. I think we found this range from like 34 to 60 that we may dance between for quite a while. I just think that there's too many big buyers that have purchased with an average price of, over 45 that'll have to step in and buy and DCA, if you will, anytime it drops below, but they're buying at such large amounts that it's going to keep the price above that 33, 34 mark. So that's how I see it trending. I see, mining continuing to be very profitable because of this range that we're going to continue to fall in. Yeah, it really is a golden era right now. This is a very unique time for Bitcoin, for mining, and for people who are into, altcoins and shitcoins, for those as well. It is what it is. Everyone has the ability to create massive amounts of wealth if they are paying attention to the markets and they are spending the time that they need to be doing proper research. This is the time that I think most people have wished for their entire life, where they have the ability to level up to a point where, their family will be set. And, not set as in like everybody gets a Lambo, but you can live very comfortably if you're able to create, $100,000-$200,000 of income for yourself and your family in perpetuity. And you have the ability right now, especially with a lot of these DeFi protocols that are out there and lending and borrowing against your Bitcoin, to do that. It's just about growing your stack as much as you can.
For sure. You mentioned the golden era or age that we're in right now. We have a lot of corporations putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Obviously, El Salvador has made Bitcoin a legal tender, and it seems like more politicians are coming on board and becoming Bitcoiners. And we could potentially see other countries follow El Salvador's move, and more companies potentially following MicroStrategy and Tesla's move. What are your thoughts on all this adoption and the growth we're seeing?
So I think that the adoption by big companies is not good for Bitcoin. Maybe I'm just too much of a Bitcoiner, but when everyone cheers when a big corporation buys a bunch of Bitcoin, it's antithetical to what Bitcoin is, right? All you're doing is moving back to the status quo. Like nothing against Saylor, nothing against MicroStrategy. I think, it's his company and he's leveraging his capital markets to buy as much Bitcoin as he wants. And I think he's a Bitcoiner, and mazel tov, right? But when I look at like BlackRock owns a pretty hefty percentage of MicroStrategy. It owns a pretty hefty percentage of all of the publicly traded mining companies, right? You start to wonder, are we just moving back towards the normal? And this is effectively the new normal, but it's not the normal we wanted. It's the normal that we're going to get because now we've created this asset class that can generate massive yields for people like the BlackRocks or these other very well capitalized institutions who can come in and effectively sweep the floor whenever they want and take over an asset class with such a small market cap like Bitcoin. So just some of my, random thoughts, if you will.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I've been having dialogue with some folks recently, and I'm like, and back in the day where the cypherpunks and the folks who were really cultivating Bitcoin and getting it going, they were anti-establishment, anti-banks and so forth. And now it seems like the catalyst or the solution is not so much Bitcoin. And hear me out here. It's more DeFi, which can involve Bitcoin, that will disrupt more. Because like you said, Bitcoin is getting adopted by these big companies. And it's like, okay, banks are going to have Bitcoin now. So what do we do?
I don't know what the answer is there, but it's certainly something that we're going to face head on very soon. Like, I think one day we're going to wake up and the majority of the Bitcoin in the world is going to be held by people that we don't want to hold it if we're not careful.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your thoughts on crypto regulations in the United States? There's a lot to unpack here. We have the SEC going after different altcoins, Ripple, Terra Luna, and so forth. Gary Gensler, he's approved a Bitcoin futures ETF, but they have refused to approve a Bitcoin spot ETF. And then there's the infrastructure bill debacle just recently, the China or America Competes Act or whatever it may be. What is your take as someone who's building in the market?
It is all good for Bitcoin right now, is the way that I would look at it. Everything that's happening outside all these market forces, they're good for Bitcoin. This is ultimately what we asked for, right? We asked for this level of attention, and now we've got it, and now we just need to be careful to keep it and keep it in the right way.
Yeah. While there are some roadblocks and some potholes in the way, we are still headed in the right direction. And more members of Congress, as we talked about before, are becoming Bitcoiners, which is a good sign.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on NFTs and the boom there? Do you own any NFTs?
So I like art, so I do own some NFTs. I'm not, speculating and trading in and out of them. I've never sold one. But I like them. I like art. I like to buy things, and I've got a lot of friends who are NFT artists, so I support them, like Jose Silva, JN Silva on Twitter, or Ravi Vora. They put out collections that like I would hang on my wall, and that's what I'll buy. I'm not into buying like weird looking monkeys or those kinds of things. Like, look, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to hate on the people who are making money doing it, right? Like, make your money, do your thing. My opinions don't pay your bills, so take them with a grain of salt. But for me, it's more about collecting art that I'm going to hang on to and value over time.
For sure. I'm of the same mindset. I look at a Bored Ape and I'm like, it doesn't appeal.
But look, if I would have bought it for 1 ETH and sold it for 500 ETH, then I love Bored Apes, right? Like, I love it.
Well, don't get me wrong. If it was a trade to make money, I'm all for it. But as like you said, like, do I like this? Is it something I want to hang on my wall? No. But
right.
If I was able to buy it cheap and then flip it, of course. Yeah.
Because look, that's 100 ETH worth of Bitcoin you can buy, or 500 ETH worth of Bitcoin you can buy, right? And like for me, Bitcoin it's savings. That's my savings account, So I've got like my target goal of Bitcoin that I want to hit to give to my kids, and that's like until that's done, everything is driving towards that number.
Speaking of Bitcoin, and this is not a price prediction question, but more of an adoption question. Where do you see Bitcoin in 5 years, given that the Lightning Network is being built to help improve Bitcoin's usability from a day-to-day transaction standpoint? Do you see, more merchants, Amazons of the world accepting Bitcoin, and we're, doing some commerce around with it?
Yeah, so I do think that we're going to see some serious adoption. Lightning is going to lead the way with that. I don't know that Amazon will ever adopt it, but I think that there's going to be more and more merchants that are taking it on to where a lot of littles may make up a big contingency that's very valid. With regards to the overall use by merchants, I think there are still a lot of hurdles that we need to overcome. It is quite simple to use Bitcoin nowadays compared to how it used to be. But the price volatility, it makes things very challenging. And we're still battling a lot of those narratives. People can say all day long that 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin, and they're totally right. I say that all the time. But when it comes to your purchasing power, spending Bitcoin is something where you do it when the price is low and you look back on it with regret, right? Or you receive it when the price is high and you look back on it and say, damn it, I wish I would have converted it. Because for most businesses, they can't hold all of the Bitcoin that people are spending with them. They have to sell it right away. But oftentimes what happens is they speculate more than they should, and it turns what could be a positive into a potential drain on their company resources. So there's still some areas that we need to improve with regards to, Bitcoin as a method of payment. I still view it more as a store of value, frankly speaking. I'm not buying anything with Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks have that same mindset. Like, I have my Bitcoin, I'm not planning to spend it on anything unless there's some life-changing event where I need to.
Right.
And I'm waiting to maybe for the days, and this is probably 5-6 years from now, where it's more stable. And I'm we're transacting in Satoshis, and the price is so high where transacting in Satoshis doesn't really matter. The volatility is not, it doesn't affect it as much. So we'll just have to see how things pan out there, but definitely a great store of value.
Absolutely.
All right. What do you think about central bank digital currencies, CBDCs? Central banks are taking the blockchain tech from Bitcoin and they're putting the fiat on there. What are your thoughts on that?
Smart on their part. I mean, it's the step before just admitting defeat. So they gotta give it a shot. But yeah, if I was a banker, I'd be fearing for my job for sure. I would be looking for the exits, trying to find any way that I can to start getting more exposure to Bitcoin. So CBDCs are logical. And look, let's be realistic here. Blockchains are fantastic for a lot of reasons, but they also give a tremendous amount of oversight for people who are looking to have oversight. And we could very quickly, because of blockchain technology, have a 1984-esque situation when you consider that most people don't consider their own privacy and aren't concerned with their privacy, and you have a government that's eager to take as much of that privacy away as possible. That combination of factors could be problematic.
Yeah, for sure. And I just recently spoke to Congressman Tom Emery. He introduced a bill for the digital dollar to say, well, it shouldn't be issued directly from the Fed, and there has to be a layer of privacy to fit with the Constitution, the right to privacy. Hopefully they get it right, because we've seen historically with NSA and all these government agencies, they don't follow their own rules and they don't respect it. So hopefully they get it right. Like you said, we don't end up in a 1984 scenario.
Yeah, and I unfortunately, I do think that's where we're headed. I do think we're headed towards a situation that's more dystopian than we would like, if we don't start to really demand more from the people that we put in office. So a lot is going to be determined in November. A lot. Mm-hmm. This November is a critical election for the United States, and I know they're all important, but I think that this more than ever, we now are facing some pretty dire situations that we haven't ever in the past. And America's status as a superpower is 100% in question now. It's not up for debate that in most places in the world, they don't view America the way that they used to. And I think that most people who have traveled outside of the US, they know that. So there's a lot we need to improve on.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And there's a lot of dialogue right now with potentially Biden's administration to come out with an executive order around crypto. We don't know the details, but a lot of folks are saying that if he comes out with a heavy hand, Democrats are going to be in trouble with the midterms because many of them are still against crypto. Don't get me wrong, there's bipartisan support with many advocacy groups, but it's not looking too good if they're going to be anti-crypto. I think they're going to get hurt in the polls, and we'll have to vote the right people in. I think that might be my questions there for you. I'll hit the wrap-up questions now. What are your thoughts on the metaverse? And if you could create your own metaverse, what would the theme be about?
I like the metaverse. And let me back up. I love the Oculus Quest 2 and the experiences that you can have playing games on that. I'm excited to see what the metaverse becomes. If it were me, what I would be looking at is, whether it's playing cards or playing blackjack, some form of gambling. And then also travel, right? Where are there elements, where are there places that I would like to experience that maybe I haven't had the opportunity to go to, or I don't have the time to go to, or I don't have the money to go to right now? Where are those places? That's something that would really excite me. But I mean, dude, I'm a gamer. Give me a nice first person shooter in the metaverse, and I'm stoked. I think that'll be a ton of fun. I'd love to have Halo in the metaverse, right? You just put it on, and you're Master Chief in there, with the ability to use your hands, the ability to fire weapons, the ability to move freely. It's exciting. I mean, I think it's going to be a blast.
Yeah, I'm a Halo fan. Grew up playing Halo, so I would totally be doing that. Okay, some rapid fire questions. Favorite food?
Pho.
Oh wait, I don't think I caught that.
Pho, Vietnamese soup, and
Oh, got it.
specifically bum bok hue, the spicy beef pho.
Ah, very nice. Favorite musician or band?
Jay-Z.
Favorite movie?
Ooh. Godfather 2 or Boiler Room.
Ah, good. Yeah, both are great movies. Favorite book?
Favorite book is The Count of Monte Cristo.
Very nice. And when you're not working at Compass, what are you doing for fun as a hobby?
Spending time with my wife and my two kids. That's where all of my free time goes. I like to ski, so we're doing a lot of that this season. And if I'm not doing either of those two things, I just love being around people. So taking every opportunity that I can to hang out with other people.
Whit, pleasure chatting with you. Congrats again on the success with Compass Mining, and looking forward to the updates this year. And would love to have you back on as things progress.
Hey, I appreciate the invitation. Thank you so much for having me. I'd love to come on anytime.